I finally remembered during the daylight to get back on the train of daily vlogs. I didn't do any for the last couple of days because I kept forgetting. And by the time I got home, I was like, oh, I'm too tired. So what is today? Today's Saturday. So Thursday, my husband actually took off work because we were having the notary come by to refinance our house again because interest rates are super low, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And so she was coming in the middle of the day, and it's like an hour and a half drive for him to work, so it was like, I'll just take the day off. And yeah, it was actually really nice in the morning. Like it seemed like, spring. Like it's supposedly officially spring now, but um, the notary this time was this older lady, older white lady. Last time we refinanced the notary that came, it was right at the beginning of COVID, and we met outside we had a little fold out table, and she was really cool because she was like all nerdy, and we kept getting distracted by like talking about, geeky stuff. So I'm kind of sad we didn't have her. The lady we had this time was nice. I was a little like dismayed right at the beginning when Matthew answered the door and was like, hold on, I'm gonna get a mask on. And she was like, oh, I don't care. And like she had a mask on, but it was like, and she came into the kitchen, which I was like, okay, not super happy about. I kind of surreptitiously went behind her and opened the window so at least we had some airflow. As you know, if you've watched my past videos, my husband is already fully vaccinated. In fact, I'm currently editing I interviewed him. I mean, it is an interview. It's just, he's my husband, so it's not quite the same as a different kind of interview. And I'm cutting pieces out of it to put the audio only in the Topless Topics podcast, which the third episode is overdue. I try to get it out on the first of every month. And, this last few weeks has been insane because of my mom dying and a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, and so she came in and we kept like chatting, in between signing things or whatever. And he kind of let a few things out that I would not have let out if I was him. One of them being that, my husband's a weird guy. He, we're both, agnostic, leaning towards atheist, like believe whatever you want, just don't use those beliefs as an excuse to, outlaw things and control people's lives. Just live and let live, man. But anyway, so our sons, their middle names are Lucius for Link and Forrest, not Forrest, Forrest for Aiden. And Lucius, I actually argued Matthew down from Lucifer. And he's just, we're both weird. We both have our weirdness or whatever. But he just, I don't know, he thought it would be cool because it's like, oh, he used to be, it used to be an angel of light or whatever. And I was like, yeah, but you're dooming him if he ever does have a, Christian teacher or whatever. They're going to bully the shit out of him. And, there's only so much you can do to prevent childhood bullying. My birth name is Penny, and I was brutally teased my entire childhood. But, it was also because I was this shy, quiet kid. I know you can't believe it now. I'm so, chatty and everything. But yeah, as a kid, I was very shy and quiet. But like Matthew, he was bullied in school, but he just didn't really care. He claims. I don't know. He's the type that like laughs off when he's upset. So who knows how much he actually was affected by it. But point being, it doesn't really matter what your name is. Kids will be assholes and make fun of it. So that's why, I named Link because most people just think it's short for Lincoln anyway. I feel like Lincoln would be more likely to get made fun of than Link anyway. But I just figure, the year of time, it's cool or whatever. But you got these assholes like, oh, why don't you name him Sonic? I'm like, I don't feel like that's in the same tier exactly. Like, at least Link is, human, only Tyrolean. But anyway, and then Aiden is Aeden, and he's named after a character. Let's just say a character in a book I co-wrote with my best friend who died suddenly of a heart attack in 2009. It was actually like role-playing story, novel-style role-playing, and we literally wrote like millions and millions of pages of this stuff. But, since she died suddenly, I've been trying to like commemorate her in certain ways. And I was disappointed after I named Aiden to now every time I tell him, his name to somebody, like, oh, I know an Aiden. And it's like, damn, I didn't think it was that popular. Like, I didn't want to pick something completely weird and hard to spell or whatever, but I don't know, I'm a little disappointed it's not really rare at all anymore. Oh well. point being, so the notary lady came over. I don't even know how it came up, but yeah, Matthew was like, I was gonna name Lucifer, but she wouldn't let me. And the woman was just like, okay. Like, you could tell she was biting her tongue. And I mean, we were still having like a pleasant conversation. I was, I'm very starved for real life socialization, so I kept chattering, and then I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll let you work. But then at the end of it, we were joking about like, if we get divorced, it's going to be too hard to move to Scotland. And she was like, oh, you want to move to Scotland? I was like, well, it's like, pie in the sky dream someday or whatever. And she said, oh, my family and I went backpacking across Scotland and Europe and stuff when we were younger, and it's beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, and they, the government cares about their citizens and doesn't, leave them to die in the street because they can't afford medical care, and they're giving broadband to the whole country, even tiny towns or whatever. And she goes, yeah, well, my friend lived there, and she came to the US because Scotland said she could only get this treatment if she was dying. And again, it was like, oh, you're a Trumper. So we never actually mentioned Trump because why? Why have that unpleasantness when you're never going to see this person again in your life? But it was awkward, and it just reminded me of this article that I read really early, a year or two into the Trump regime, where it was the author was writing about her dad, who's this older guy who like volunteers at a church and brings furniture that people donate to people of color who don't have any furniture and stuff like that. And he's a diehard Trumper, and it's all about the power of compartmentalization and how people can, hold two, seemingly vastly incompatible points of view, and it's compartmentalization. It's cutting your brain into, different focuses, so that you don't have to deal with cognitive dissonance, which is this like feeling of panic or anxiety or whatever when you have two vastly different points of view. You just kind of don't think about it. An example I think of is when I talk to so-called leftists or liberals, which supposedly there's a big difference. I don't know. I think it's all semantics, but they'll be like very anti-racist or whatever, but then they'll turn around and be super sexist and be like, oh, whore, put your shirt back on. It's like, you realize that racism and sexism are both like being an asshole and thinking less of someone because they're, a different race than you, they're a different gender than you. Religious, like atheists tend to be, the ones that are outspoken about being an atheist tend to be just as asshole-ish about it as the outspoken Christians. Anyway, so, it wasn't a wholly negative experience, but it was just kind of awkward. And then because it was nice outside, I convinced the family that we would all go down to the waterfront, which I haven't been to since like March last year, which I just went down with Link. I think it was, oh no, it wasn't March. It was November, because we went down there after we dropped off the voting for the election, because I wanted to be like, it's all mail-in voting in Washington, but I wanted it to be a little bit like significant. So I took our ballots directly to the main office or whatever, and then we went to the waterfront, and it was just me and Link, and it was like windswept and wet and everything. But anyway, so I convinced the whole family to go, including my dad. My dad has not left the house except for doctor-related visits in like a year and a half. And even with the doctor, it's only been like 2 or 3 times over the course of the year. And my parents, I mean, my mom's gone now, but for a long time, basically way before I was born, my parents had this friend. I guess it started out as a friend, and then it was just, I don't know what it became, but my dad can hear me because he's over there, but he would always kind of mock this family friend for being a hoarder and agoraphobic and stuff and never leaving his house. And I'm just like, Dad, you don't leave the house either. Like, stones and glass houses. So I convinced him to come with us. And Matthew had to drive because I'm the least, I'm definitely putting on some COVID pounds, and I hope to, bust out the DDR pad and go for more dog walks when it's not raining every day. But anyway, I'm the skinniest, so I had to squish between the boys' car seats, because you're supposed to use a car seat till like 6 years old. Matthew's like, he doesn't need it anymore. I'm like, let's just err on the side of caution, because I don't want Link to go flying through the windshield if we get into a car accident. Anyway, So I squished between them, and I posted a picture on my Twitter. If you didn't know, I stopped using Facebook and Instagram completely because I'm just so fucking done with the bans. Even, posting, I haven't posted anything like even remotely topless in a long time, but they're just going back and banning the old stuff. So I'm just like, fine, I don't even pay attention to it anymore. I posted a picture where I'm like squished between the two seats. Wasn't very comfortable, but luckily, it was just on the other side of Vancouver, Washington, so we weren't going all the way into Portland, and we would have not gone into Portland because my dad can't handle car rides at all. He's very prone to dizziness and car sickness, and he also, again, he has agoraphobia, so he gets like very psychosomatic. Just the idea of going out among people makes him sick, so then he's like, oh, I can't go because I'm sick. It's like, you're sick because you're afraid to go out. Anyway, we're working on it. So anyway, we all went out there, managed to get there one piece. We did miss the exit because I don't know, there was a miscommunication somehow between me and Matthew, and so we missed the exit, and so we ended up going partially the way to Portland across the bridge, and then we had to turn around and come back. It only added like 5 minutes, but it's just like the one time I get my dad out of the house, and we end up going a little bit farther on the highway than we meant to, and of course he's like, but we got to the waterfront, and of course it started raining on the way there, and luckily I had brought the ponchos and jackets and stuff just in case. Matthew walked the kids over to the like sand area. The waterfront doesn't really have a playground. They have this weird net thing, but it's one of the areas that happens in the Pacific Northwest where instead of an actual playground, they have these like modern art looking things that are really, they don't really do anything. They're more like to look at than to play on, and I hate them. And there's like several parts like that. I don't know why. But anyway, so he took him over to the dirt, and then I walked my dad down the waterfront and back. It's not very far. It's like a quarter mile, if that. And I was walking, Fenris, Brett the dog, and like showing stuff off to my dad. And it was a little bit emotional because the waterfront, like the nice area that they're building all these new apartments in and stuff, only opened like 2 or 3 years ago. And the first time I went, I had gone with Link and Aiden and my mom, and Aiden was like a teeny tiny baby, and he was still in the cart pusher stroller or whatever. And that was right about when my mom first started getting really ill. For the first time, a couple months after Aiden was born, she started getting way sicker, and that's when the doctors gave her 3 to 6 months to live, and then she ended up living another 2 years. But which I talk about if you want to know more details. I was interviewed on the Death is Hilarious podcast in the episode The Doctors Were Wrong, where I go into detail about all that. So if you really want to, you can go look up Death is Hilarious and look for that episode and listen to it. Anyway, and I just like remember they had like a sort of stage set up, and they had these like bands where they imitate 1950s or 1920s music and costumes and stuff, and I just have this really clear memory of Link like dancing. He's like 2.5, so he's still kind of a toddler, but he's like dancing, and my mom's sitting on the stone benches going, go Link, go, and then Aiden's like sleeping in the stroller. Anyway, it's just I'm walking past there now with my dad, and there was barely anyone there because it was rainy and cold or whatever. There's a lot of there's like 3 or 4 restaurants along the way, and they're all like really expensive, so I don't really ever go to them, but they all had people sitting outside, but they had these giant plastic things covering the whole patio, so it was like, does that really count as outside? Like, I mean, it's cold, so I understand, you at least want to have the overhang so they're not getting rained on, but sealing the whole thing with plastic basically just makes it slightly less enclosed than indoors, and it doesn't, still got people eating next to each other or whatever. Anyway, but yeah, so we walked there and back, and then because it was raining, I asked Matthew like, hey, should we just take the kids to the park, because there's a park like 4 blocks away. And he was walking there, and I was going to go grab my heavier jacket from the car, which I had parked down by the one side of the waterfront, and my dad wanted to come with me for some reason, so he walked with me to the car, me and the dog, and I put I got the code out. I had him holding the dog while I was doing that, and someone walked by, and Fenris like almost knocked my dad over, jumping, running over to say hi to this person. So, and anyway, And then I was like, so do you want to drive to the park? He's like, no, I can. How is far? I'm like, it's a couple blocks. Okay, yeah, I can go. We managed to walk like a block and a half, and then he was like, how much farther is it? How much farther? And I was like, just sit down. I'll come get you with the car. He's like, okay. So I sat him down. I went back. I got the car. I drove over to him. I had to kind of like honk at him and have him walk over to me because he was in like the middle of a touristy area. But so I picked him up. We drove to the park. I had paid for 2.5 hours parking at the waterfront and I ended up using like half an hour. And then I paid for, it was only till 6 anyway, so I just paid the max. It was like another hour and a half at the playground. And I was really hungry. There's a Subway right there and there was a Thai place. And I thought the Thai place was right next to the Subway, but it turned out it was like 2 more blocks away. Dad walked with me over to the Subway. Again, he was like really winded and this was like not even a full block. I got the Subway, he brought the Subway back, and then I was walking to the Thai place, and Matthew messaged me saying like, oh, you didn't get any meat for the dog, so I was going to get some meat from Subway or whatever. So I went back, I got the meat, I got the meat. I went back to the park, and I gave him the meat, and they were in the car. And I was like, are they already done with the playground? And the kids was like, yeah, it's wet. We just want to eat. I was like, okay. So I got back in the car. We were going to just pick the food up at the Thai place and keep going because I had already called and ordered. And so we did that. We got back into the car. Again, we had only been in the park for like 20 minutes. And like, it wasn't even like raining super hard. It was sprinkling. But my kids are just so, oh, I don't want to be on the rain. I was like, you are in the wrong area if you don't like the rain. Hopefully as they get older, they'll care less because, you know. Anyway, so we drove to the Thai place. I was wedged in between the seats, so I couldn't really get out. So I was there. Dad was in the front seat. Matthew went in to get the food, and he had to wait for it to be ready. And so we weren't in an actual parking spot. We were in like a red zone because we were hoping it was just go pick it up and then come back. But anyway, like the whole freaking time, the kids are screaming like, oh, we want to eat. We want to go home. I'm like, dude, Daddy is getting the food. We will go home very soon. And my dad's up front going, like just, you know, whatever. Finally, he gives the food. We're coming home. And my dad says, you know, even though, you know, we were only there a little bit or whatever, I had fun. And I'm like, good. See, you know, it's good to get out. You know, it's not always terrible. But it does seem like every time I do take my dad out, like something happens with traffic. Like, back, you know, years ago, we were going to a park or something. And there was apparently, it's like it wasn't the World's Naked Bike Ride. It was some big cycling thing. And they had closed down a bunch of roads, which I didn't know. So we were stuck in traffic. And my dad's just like, the whole time. So yeah, for some reason, every time my dad's in the car, there's like a traffic jam. Anyway, so that happened. Got home. I was really tired. Basically just existed until I was able to put the kids to bed. Then went to bed. Yesterday, Matthew worked. I spent the lunchtime trying to wrap up more of my mom's affairs. One of the big concerns is that, you know, she's retired from the post office, and my dad gets his share of the retirement and health insurance coverage through her retirement. And she really stressed over and over and over before she died, as soon as I die, call the Office of Personal Management at the post office. And I tried to, you know, when she first died, and I tried the phone number she left. It just gave me a generic, you know, the phone number was busy, could not be connected. I went to the website, and the website is so broken. Like, it's, you know, ops.gov, like it's the actual website. But like all the links either just link back to the home page, or they link to page not found. Like the front page says, you know, oh, here's a statement about, you know, from the OPM about how the state of things with COVID or whatever. You click the link, it's a page cannot be found. Like, government website, super fucking broken. And like I said, the phone number doesn't work. And my dad is really nervous that they're just going to like hear about my mom's death and then cut off all benefits, and then my dad won't have health insurance. Like, he'll have Medicare, but, you know, we've never really tried to use it before. And supposedly it can be really hard to find a doctor that'll take it and all this stuff. But anyway, so he had the idea of me calling someone at the actual post office. So I did call like a generic line, and she wasn't able to help me because she was for active employees, but she gave me some numbers to try. So I tried one of the other numbers, which was supposed to be like an in-house HR for office, USPS. And I got a generic message that was like, please hold while we find you an agent. The estimated wait time is 1.5 hours to 2 hours. So, and there was no option to, get a callback or anything. So I had my earbuds in and I was just like half listening and trying to like answer emails and stuff. And they couldn't have just played nice music. No, it was freaking ads like, oh, buy your postage today. Did you know that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like repeating over and over. And so, it's hard to tell, is it someone actually talking or is it just the robocall? So like I kept getting distracted. I couldn't, edit video or anything. Well, that happened finally after literally like an hour and a half. I got somebody and she said, well, this is only for the active employee line. Here's a number you can try. And it was almost 5 o'clock at that point. So and they were East Coast time anyway, so they closed at 2 our time. So I didn't try the number yet. I'm going to try it on Monday. But it's just, everything is so fucked up. Like, I am definitely not a Republican and think that like, putting the government in charge of anything means that nothing ever happens. I think as long as, corporations are in charge, they're always going to undercut everything and, always go with the most profitable, least spending money option. Hence, Texas's catastrophic power failure because they made their own power grid to get out of federal regulations, and the companies didn't weatherize their stuff because they figured, let's make more money. Who cares if we completely lose, all our stuff breaks as soon as it gets really cold. But of course, Texas is completely crazy because they also just repealed their mask mandate entirely and told businesses they can open at 100% because they are fucking stupid. So is Mississippi. What the fuck are you doing, Republicans? God save health workers there and, the blue dots in the middle of those massive red waves of stupidity. Wow. Anyway, yeah, so I tried to make phone calls, couldn't really make much progress, but at least I tried. My dad's still like, oh, they're going to cut off my health. I'm like, I don't think they will. Maybe. I can't, say 110% sure they won't, but I really don't think they will. But anyway, and when Matthew got home, he said, do you want to go to Vault 31, which is the gaming bar down the street? And they just were able to reopen at 25% capacity because rates are way down. I mean, you still wear a mask and all this other stuff. But the problem is that Matthew's off Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The bar is closed Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And so the only nights that Matthew doesn't have to get up early the next day are Friday and Saturday, which of course are really, the most popular nights. And because my dad can't watch the kids, we can't go until the kids are down in bed, and the kids aren't down in bed until like 8:39. So, and the bar is only open till 11 on Friday and Saturday and 10 on the other days. So we just, it's of course, as soon as we got the kids down, they were already maxed out. Because that's only 13 people. 25% is only 13 people for the full bar. And, it's just, we try to buy food to go from this place. We've been doing that, the whole year of COVID, everything, like basically once a week buying food for them, just trying to help them stay alive. And we really like the bar. We really like the people that work there. It's, it's its own just small bar. The owner works there and everything like that. And, he has a Twitch show, by the way. I think it's called the Wastelander Show or something like that. I will look it up and put it in the video description. Yell at me if I forget. So you can go listen to it if you want. And if you live near Portland, Oregon, and when COVID is not a fucking huge ass threat, you should go check them out. They're not like the coin op ones where you have to keep paying for the games. They have all the systems, including like old ones and new ones. And you don't have to pay anything. Like, you just play the game and, preferably buy drinks and food while you're there. But, it's just really nice and chill. And before COVID, it was really fun. We'd go there. First of all, my mom was still around and she was kind of able to help watch the kids. So Matthew and I would go there and we would just start playing Super Smash with like random people. And it was just this camaraderie and everything like that. Which I think will come back when we are on the other side of this, when we actually do have most people vaccinated and, don't live with the constant threat of, am I going to die of this disease? Anyway, but, just holding out until that happens. Anyway, so they were full. So Matthew and I finally got him to try Grounded again for the first time in months, which, if you haven't heard of it, is a survival crafting kind of thing. But what's cool about it is it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Basically, like, you play as humans that are like, the enemies are like ladybugs and spiders and stuff. They actually have a slider in the game where if you're afraid of spiders, you can reduce the amount of features until it basically just becomes a blob. Now, Matthew is afraid of spiders. He's not like phobic about it, but he just really doesn't like spiders. And I said, why don't you turn it down? Because it only does it on your system. It doesn't do it for everybody. So I was like, why don't you turn it down to the blob? He's like, because the blob is still scary because I know it's a spider. So it's hard for me to get him to play his game because he gets like all stressed out about it. But yeah, we played a couple hours of that, and then it was bedtime and we went to bed and stuff like that. But it was fun. So yeah, today I'm about to start my live stream in like another hour. I'm just gonna play some more Control. If you haven't heard, Plex Storm live streams on Saturday are going to be the only topless access to me for quite a while until you know, I can afford direct hosting, and I'm in this catch-22 where I don't have the time or energy to spend to try to make money to make the content that would make me want whatever. But I do have all these ideas for, you know, my gaming channel, Sarah Got Game, that I'm trying to remake, you know, resurge, bring back to popularity, and Link's Plays that I made for my son years ago, but it was hard to get him to kind of act or anything on, not act, but behave, like do something on camera besides just like stand there and make up sounds. It's almost like stage fright. It's like I'm like, you know, okay, let's tell a story, and he's like, and it's like, you're not a sim, honey. So that does give me another idea. Anyway, I just have all these ideas for videos I want to do with him, and most of it just depends on it not being rainy all the time. So future. I did shoot a video with him yesterday upstairs where I basically tried to get him to make up a story, and it was kind of chaotic because I brought up a bunch of my gaming figures and stuff and tried to put them up on the wall, on the bookshelves, and of course he and Aiden are pulling them down and breaking them and everything, but I got some good footage. I think I'm going to try to edit it. First I need to finish the podcast, which is super late, and then I still have like 3 other things that I shot before I made the decision to stop being topless that I need to finish editing and put up somewhere. I started putting versions of my videos where the entire thing is mosaicked, not just chin down, literally the entire thing. YouTube already removed one. Amazingly, I appealed it and they restored it, which almost never happens. Like literally that's happened maybe twice in 10 years that they've actually restored a video based on an appeal. But yeah, it's just hilarious. It's just hilarious. Even videos when I have the entire thing mosaicked so you can barely tell what's going on screen, I still don't take that taken down. So that's why I don't fucking do topless stuff anymore. But yeah, I'm super behind on like emails and, you know, OnlyFans messages and stuff because it's a stressful thing to check because it's just people yelling at me like, why don't you give me more free content? It's like, do you not read my social media? Do you not know the stress that I'm under? So anyway, this is a really long vlog, but again, I didn't make any for 2 days, so consider it like 3 in a row. I'm gonna go get ready and start my live stream and play some more Control, which I feel like I've almost beaten. It's just really hard to figure out where to go in the map, so that's why it's taken me a while. But I'm enjoying it because telekinesis is fun, and I can just pretend that the enemies I'm throwing, you know, furniture at are the Republicans that are killing the stimulus bill and removing mask mandates from their Republican states that none of their constituents were adhering to anyway, and keeping COVID going and going and going and going and going because they're fucking piece of shit garbage. And yeah. Anyway, see you in the next video.